animals with liquid blood after 40,000 years in the ice. A fruitcake so perfectly preserved it still smells edible. And a virus that slept in permafrost for 30,000 years, until scientists woke it up. These are not movie plots. These are real discoveries pulled out of melting glaciers and frozen ground. By the time we reach number 1, you will understand why some researchers are genuinely nervous about what is still locked in the ice right now. The century-old Antarctic fruitcake. In a lonely hut on the edge of Antarctica, conservation workers opened a rusty tin. Inside was a perfectly intact fruitcake, wrapped in paper, baked more than 100 years ago for a doomed polar expedition. Despite a century of brutal cold, the cake still looked fresh and even smelled almost edible, thanks to Antarctica's natural deep freeze. It became a time capsule of human ambition, frozen at the bottom of the world. Low temperatures and dry air preserved it like a natural freezer. The hut also contained other supplies, tools, and newspapers from the early 1900s. Glacier Girl, the buried warplane in 1942, during a fierce storm, several American warplanes were forced to land on Greenland's ice sheet. The crews were rescued, but the planes were abandoned and slowly swallowed by snow and ice. 50 years later, a team went back, using radar to search under the glacier. They found a P-38 Lightning fighter nearly 300 feet below the surface. Piece by piece, they melted it out of the ice, flew the parts home, and rebuilt it into a fully working aircraft named Glacier Girl. The plane was buried under roughly 80 meters of ice. Restoration took 10 years and thousands of hours of work. Glacier Girl now flies at airshows as a living relic of World War II. Soldiers emerging from alpine glaciers high in the Italian Alps, the mountains have been giving up their dead. As glaciers retreat, they reveal soldiers from the First World War, preserved in ice as if they had fallen only days before. Boots, uniforms, rifles, and even handwritten letters reappear, pulled slowly back into the sunlight after a century in the frozen trenches. The war that was supposed to end all wars is still sending bodies home, one thawed glacier at a time. Melting ice has also revealed tunnels, barbed wire, and ammunition. Museums in the region display artifacts and tell the soldiers' stories. Otzi the Iceman. Two hikers in the Alps thought they had found a modern accident victim melting out of the ice. Rescuers soon realized the truth was far stranger. This was not a skier. It was a man who had died more than 5,000 years ago. Otzi the Iceman still had his clothing, tools, and even a copper axe. His last meal was preserved in his stomach. Tattoos marked his skin. He had been lying there, perfectly frozen, for longer than the pyramids have existed. Over 60 tattoos were found on his skin. Scientists have studied his DNA, diet, and even the pollen in his gut. Luba, the baby mammoth on a remote Siberian riverbank, a reindeer herder noticed a small, strange shape sticking out of the permafrost. It was a baby woolly mammoth, so perfectly preserved that her eyelashes and tiny tail hairs were still visible. Scientists named her Luba. She had died around 1 month old, then been sealed in frozen ground for about 40,000 years. Her body became a biological time machine, revealing details about the Ice Age in breathtaking clarity. She is one of the most complete mammoth specimens ever found. Her organs, skin, and even milk from her mother were preserved. Scanning showed mud in her trunk, likely causing her death by suffocation. Studies of Luba help scientists understand why mammoths went extinct. What you have seen so far is only the surface. The next discoveries are not just frozen bodies, but entire forests, lakes, and things that might still be alive. The forest under the glacier near Juneau, Alaska, a glacier has been quietly shrinking, pulling back from the valley it once filled. As the ice retreated, hikers began noticing something eerie embedded in the blue walls. Dark stumps. Broken branches. Roots tangled in clear ice. An entire ancient forest had been frozen in place for centuries, its trees snapped and buried when the glacier advanced. Now the trunks are standing back in the open air, grey and ghostly, as if time is trying to reverse itself. Some tree stumps are still rooted in the original soil. The glacier had bulldozed and entombed the forest as it moved forward. Flowers from a 30,000-year-old burrow in the Siberian permafrost, researchers dug into an ancient squirrel nest, frozen solid since the Ice Age. Inside, they found seeds and plant material that had been carefully stored and forgotten for tens of thousands of years. Scientists took some of those seeds to a lab, coaxed them back to life, and watched them grow into delicate white flowers. The plants were last alive when mammoths still walked the earth. Now they bloom again under fluorescent lights. Facts: the seeds were discovered in northeastern Siberia. They came from an extinct Campion species called Silene stenophila. Lake Vostok's hidden ecosystem. Deep under Antarctica's ice sheet lies a lake the size of a small country, sealed off from the surface for millions of years. 2 miles of solid ice pressed down on its dark, liquid water. No sunlight has ever touched it. No air has reached it in human history. Russian teams drilled through the ice, carefully collecting samples of the lake's water and ice. Inside, they found signs of microbial life, organisms that may have evolved in total isolation beneath the frozen continent. It sits beneath about 4,000 meters of ice. The lake is considered an analogue for hidden oceans on moons like Europa. The foal with liquid blood in a massive thawing crater in Siberia, scientists spotted something dark sticking out of the permafrost wall. It was a tiny horse, a foal from a long-extinct breed, lying as if asleep in the frozen soil. Its coat was intact. Its mane still smooth. When researchers examined it further, they found something almost impossible inside its veins. 40,000-year-old blood, still liquid, preserved in the permanent cold like a macabre biological sample. It was about 2 months old when it died. Muscles, organs, and even whiskers were still visible. Giant viruses waking up in a Siberian lab, a team of scientists carefully thawed a cylindrical piece of ancient permafrost. The sample had been frozen for more than 30,000 years. Buried inside it was something microscopic, complex, and very much not dead. They had found a giant virus, larger and more intricate than most others known, still capable of infecting amoebas after all that time. If a virus can survive frozen for 30,000 years and simply pick up where it left off, what else might be waiting in the ice? The virus infects single-celled amoebas, not humans. You have just explored 10 of the strangest things ever pulled from ice and permafrost. From a 100-year-old fruitcake and buried warplanes to perfectly preserved mammoths, forests, and a foal with liquid blood, the frozen world is quietly keeping our past on ice. At the top of the list, ancient giant viruses proved they can simply wake up after 30,000 years, raising unsettling questions about what else could still be alive beneath our feet. Which of these discoveries amazed you the most? Would you want to visit a lab holding 30,000-year-old viruses? Do you think we should keep drilling into hidden lakes like Vostok? How much of our planet's history do you think is still locked away in the ice? If this chilly journey fascinated you, tap like and subscribe so we can keep uncovering the strangest corners of our world. Next time, we dive into real underground worlds, from abandoned mines that became crystal palaces to hidden cities buried beneath modern streets.